Simone, I'm excited to be here with you today. Today, we are going to be going over an article called Communal Narcissism, which dives into a new phenomenon that scientists are discovering, where it turned out that the way the scientists change their methodology a bit and go, oh my God, I found something shocking. It turns out that there is narcissism within leftist communities. How did all of our old studies not pick this up? But it is a new phenomenon. So we're going to be going over an article that was written by Brett Parley and Keith Thompson that explores this phenomenon and how it is being sort of tracked and elucidated by scientists. And obviously I'm going to do what I normally do, which is not read the entire article, just read the parts that I think are interesting to learn about. Because obviously it starts just talking about what we all know, is that the left is shockingly narcissistic in many ways, and like going into when they all put up black squares or like pride flags over their pictures. Do you remember when that used to be like a thing? And in college, I remember like when it would happen, I'd be like afraid not to do it. I'm like, oh my God, I have to do it. Or everyone's going to say, because if all your friends have it up, everyone's going to be like, this is proof that you're homophobic. I already had suspicions that you might be a conservative or have conservative sympathies. And so, trying to start my career, I had to go as the flow. I love some people who are like, I would never do that. And it's like, well, I do support like general gay rights, right? So I should, I guess, change my profile. But let's continue here. Examining the literature on clinical narcissism in the time of Trump, we discovered something surprising. Researchers had been certain that they would be able to distinguish healthy individuals from those suffering from the new condition. What gradually dawned on them was that many of the individuals they had been scoring as normal were, in fact, exhibiting vanity, grandiosity, and entitlement, the hallmark traits of self-centered narcissistic displays, very overtly. And actually even more overtly than the ones who they were categorizing as narcissists. Of course, the pathological aspects of the new condition announced themselves in markedly different words and gestures. It had previously been assumed that these characteristics were healthy, unlike the well-known characteristics of overt narcissism, so readily apparent in people like Trump. Remarkably, and I would say that people are like, oh my gosh, how dare you call Trump a I mean, come on. Like, we can be conservatives and still be like, the guy's a little narcissistic. But anyway, to continue here. Remarkably, the experts nearly missed telltale signs of what they would go on to characterize as communal narcissism. Communal indicating that individuals seek validation and admiration through their perceived contributions to social groups or communities rather than through personal achievements. So what this new form of narcissism is narcissism about like, I'm always a good person. I always do good things. I always contribute to my community in the correct way. And it is through constant signaling of sort of in-group when you are convinced that in-group is the only group that really matters, which you see among, progressives, with like Hillary Clinton calling the others the deplorables. You really, as somebody who used to be a progressive, I remember the way that they think, and it is really that the other, anyone who isn't within their social alignment, this urban monocultural alignment, is really sort of not human exactly, and
Absolutely.
not really worth
Yeah.
considering or thinking about.
Yeah. Subhuman. Like too ignorant to be really considered a peer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad.
But is that not like classical narcissism to consider only this one group as mattering and dedicate your life to this one group, and everything that they do is axiomatically good because they are the ones doing it? To our surprise, and that of the researchers themselves, communal narcissism turns out to be the equal and opposite variant of the self-centered overt type in which individuals boast about being quote unquote the best. Joshin Gerber's 2012 paper in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychiatry introduced the agency communal model, distinguishing agentic narcissists who boast of their intelligence and achievements from communal narcissists who claim to be the most helpful or virtuous. Isn't that a fascinating way to delineate the two groups? Basically, if you have this narcissistic trait and you are agentic, you become this sort of overt narcissist. I'm the best. I'm the greatest.
Right.
Because you both think that you're the greatest, and you think for yourself, which is in a way morally superior to the communal narcissist who is non-agentic but thinks that they are great and everything they do is good. So they just align themselves with a pre-existing, often what they see as the dominant cultural group.
Well,
And
it seems to me like this is a new iteration of the Karen, what you're describing, because the Karen
yeah,
is also that, like, I'm the HOA president, like, I represent our community. You are ruining this. You can't park here. You can't do this. And the classic Karen archetype is someone who believes that they are in the right and speaking on behalf of their community, and not based on some individual evaluation, but based on what they believe to be normatively correct.
I really found the way she put this interesting. This is a form of narcissism where instead of thinking you are the main character and the most important person and nobody else's thoughts, feelings, perspectives really matters, you think that your community is the only one that really matters and no other community, thoughts, perspectives, etc. matters, and that you are an avatar of that community. Well, yeah. I think that the Karen is a version of this, but I think that the higher version is the Twitter person or something like that. The Karen had to go out and run for office and everything like that. She
Mm.
wasn't just reflexively reacting to whatever group she thought was the biggest in her environment. I think that the better proto iteration of this was like the satanic panic mom, the Christian pearl clutching mom when Christians were the dominant
Mm.
social group in America, and instead of the urban monoculture. And this individual would just, and these likely exist within some communities where Christianity or Mormonism is still the dominant group, where they just reflexively pearl clutch and pull themselves back to, well, my community is the morally righteous community. My community is the correct community because they are the dominant community. That, like, they align themselves with this community because it's dominant. And I think many people with
Ah.
personality structure
Mm.
switched which community they were supporting as the urban monoculture became dominant. And I
Right. So,
think,
like, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying about agentic versus not agentic. In a sense, they flock to whatever the dominant community is
mm,
because they need something to stand behind as authority, since they aren't incapable of or not confident enough to develop their own
yeah, these are the
authority.
people who make fascism work. Like
Mm.
the moment like the Nazi party seems to be gaining power, they all flock to it because it is now creating the new moral standards, and they act as moral police for the community to prevent people from deviating or defecting from the community, which is actually sort of really good for the human gene pool right now, because these individuals are being completely weeded out of humanity in a big way when this behavior used to actually be quite, because the urban monoculture has so low fertility rates, used to be quite successful as a fertility strategy. Just
Yeah.
align yourself with whoever looks powerful
Yeah, actually.
and then
I mean,
be narcissistic.
yeah.
Yet both groups share the same essential needs for affirmation and validation. Ekin's okay work enhance. Oh, sorry. No, sorry. I need to be clear here. His last name is okay. They're not putting shade on his work. They're not saying Ekin's okay work. I was
Okay.
wondering why they wrote like that. I was like, what? It enhanced our understanding further. The communal narcissist's warm glow conceals a sense of entitlement and special status. For such individuals, feedback or criticism is commonly experienced as an attack. Yes, I have noticed this. This is true of narcissists. Feedback or criticism is an attack. And it's true for many progressives when you're like, hey, like, do you not see how imperialistic your community is acting towards external groups? And they're like, how dare you? I can't, you can't. Blah, blah, blah. Like when I pointed out that, well, when they said it was monstrous and that the groups that use corporal punishment are monstrous, like when we were skewered for this, I'm like, well, depending on the study you're looking at, it's like 85 to like 90% of like Black Americans spank their kids, right? Like this is way more dominant in African American communities. Are you saying they're monstrous? And they're like, oh, but how could you, the conservative, say that we are racist? And I'm like, well, because you're doing something racist right now, right? Like you're assigning a true value to something that is just like a choice around parenting practices.
Mm.
And not even a choice, but a culturally bound choice around parenting practices. And
Exactly.
so, but like you see their brains break down in some of the pieces where we said that, you know, it's like they don't even counter argument. They were just confused and enraged that us, the conservatives, could point out something that they, the progressives, were doing was racist. While communal narcissism can be detected in many social movements, both today and in the past, it most closely mirrors the ethos of the progressive left. In fact, it plays a key role in the psychosocial dynamics driving that ideology. Although I'd note that I think it used to be a driving force on the right. I used to think that your standard communal narcissist in the 1950s or 1960s in the United States would have been a rightist, and the right displayed these tactics when they held the dominant culture. I don't think that this is intrinsically a leftist thing to do. I just think that this is a strategy that is sometimes employed by some cultural groups to maintain power.
Yeah, and probably for the past 2,000 years, it was more common to see people doing this through a church, which I guess we would
Exactly.
argue is more conservative leaning. So this is not exactly a partisan thing. It's just that right now it happens to be a
Mm.
progressive thing, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Communal narcissism exists on a spectrum. At its mild end, individuals earnestly advocate for social justice, finding quiet satisfaction and camaraderie in their omni cause of supporting the intersecting grievances of marginalized groups. When less, but and note they put marginalized in scare quotes. When less benign individuals become dogmatic and antagonistic, as when the View hosts engage in their anti-Trump vitriol, prioritizing moral posturing over dialogue. At its most severe, individuals try to justify violence, such as BLM riots, assaults on Trump supporters, and the firebombing of Tesla vehicles. Perhaps most chilling is selective compassion, as seen in the silence of many progressives after the recent murders of Yaron Levinsky and Sarah Lynn Milgram. Despite the victims' dedication to peace, many self stylized champions of universal values withheld outrage,
Who are
revealing
these
a
people who were killed? Do you
this
know
was
about?
the two Israeli diplomats who were killed, I'm guessing.
Okay, okay. Yes. Thank
One who
you
was
for
about
the
to go home
context.
to propose. Really sad that
I
this
know.
happened.
Yes, devastating.
Revealing a disconnect between their benevolent self image and their deeper ideological purity. And I did note this. You did not have much progressive hand wringing after those murders, after the Holocaust survivor was burnt alive in another American attack with a Molotov cocktail.
Oh gosh, right. Then that was more recent. My
That was
gosh.
more recent. And the left and the mainstream media just has not been covering this stuff much, which I think shows their, true ideological bent, which is quite chilling to me.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm glad I'm not Jewish. Like it's a scary time to be Jewish in America right now. I can
Yeah,
see
no
why they
thanks.
they they feel they need their own country to stay safe. But anyway, the progressive left's pivot away from violent revolution in the 60s and its subsequent long term march through institutions echoes this pattern. From campus protest to corporate boardroom, activists demand systemic change, but their need for validation often overshadow the very goals they want to achieve. Thomas Sowell's The Vision of the Anointed unpacks this delusion where, quote unquote, good intentions habitually resist disconfirming facts, leading to blind spots, unintended consequences, and lack of course corrections, which I think we saw probably most blindingly when Greta Thunberg, when she was, taken in by Israeli troops. They tried to show her the videos that Hamas had filmed of themselves of what they did on October 7th,
Yeah.
and she refused to encounter this information.
Yeah.
And when asked to justify this, she was just like, well, I didn't want to be, what was it? She said like brainwashed by their propaganda or something.
Yeah, I think it
But
was
it's
just a
like, but
choice
this is
not to engage at
Hamas's
all.
propaganda.
Yeah.
They want you to know what they're about. Like, that's
That's
the thing.
that's a point so many Israelis keep trying to make of like they're really clear about what they want.
I
Why are
don't
you
like,
hiding
I
this?
honestly, the level of cognitive disconnect. I was looking at pictures from a pride parade recently. Like, I wasn't even just looking at this, I was looking at the pictures. And they had a whole section of the parade that was like pro-Palestine. And it like dotted amongst all of the other pride stuff was pro-Palestine stuff and like Hamas flags and stuff like that. And I was like, what the what? Like that Hamas is like, but we have said we plan to kill you, right? Like You understand this as you're protesting for us. Like, we're not shy about what we do to gay people.
Yeah, it's
We're
not
not shy
ambiguous.
that we want this to be illegal, you know, and I find this very like weird, the level of like cognitive disconnect and inability to see through the wider cultural milieu, I guess.
Yeah.
Totalitarian movements thrive by manufacturing consent. Ordinary people are forced to cooperate with permission structures designed by elites with power and authority. As consequence, they come to believe things that they would not otherwise have entertained, allowing men to compete against women in women's sports, approving sex changes for minors, opening borders to unvetted illegal immigrants, defunding the police, and decriminalizing crime. Radical changes in policy are facilitated by media and institutional narratives that provide scaffolding for fast shifting beliefs. That is also interesting how quickly the progressive beliefs have shifted. Like the ban on police thing, like came out of nowhere. Like that would have been considered some weirdo fantasy, I think like 5 years ago. And then it just became normal. Like it wasn't like it became normal slowly. It became normal like 1 month. It was like, okay, now we're for
Well, and I'm
banning
still so
police.
not clear on like who actually wants this, because it seemed like this wasn't exactly a Black community thing, because so many
No,
Black
black
voters were
communities
like, no,
want this less
actually,
than whites do. Like black voters want
yeah,
this less than white voters. So it's not it's the Karenopoly. It's the Karenopoly. No, it is. I think the communal narcissistic patterns are more prevalent in women than men. Potentially because women are less agentic. I don't know. Are
well,
women less
women are
agentic?
more, they're more sensitive to social cues and they're more conformist, which
Yeah,
makes sense from an evolutionary perspective, because women are more dependent on their community support networks to survive, because they spend, assuming they're reproducing, a non-trivial
true.
portion of
And
their
women get
lives.
way more genetic benefit from striving to be average than men. In that if women strive for the safe average option, so long as a woman survives broadly, she's likely going to do genetically okay because she's
Yeah,
likely going to be able to find a partner if she wants one and have kids. Whereas for men, and this is because historically a lot of women were like multiple women to a partner or something. Whereas for men, it was often harder. Like you had to sort of go for broke, which would have pushed, less conforming actions. So as a woman, it was usually genetically safer to conform with group norms, whereas a man, it was usually genetically safer to try to look for what is objectively true.
totally. Yeah, men are go big or go home. Women are, let's stick to the center of the bell curve.
In Private Truths, Public Lies, Tamar Quran introduces the concept of preference falsification, where individuals publicly affirm politically correct quote unquote truths while privately remaining skeptical. Unlike overt narcissists who shrug off social norms, communal narcissists require moral approval from the anointed, rendering them more susceptible to social pressures and more likely to falsify their preferences. They readily adopt questionable ideas that the narrative insists are fair minded and true. In 1957, Carl Jung warned of quote unquote collective possession driven by a quote unquote overwrought emotionality that is immune to reason. He spoke of psychic epidemic fueled by utopian delusions. Today, psychic epidemic fueled by utopian delusions and collective possession or overwrought emotionality. God, that actually is really I usually don't think much of Carl Jung, but that is very predictive. Today's progressive left with chants like no human is illegal risks falling into this trap. Arguably it already has. Yet a path forward exists. And I illuminated by two men who were both assassinated at the age of 39, Malcolm X experienced a crisis of faith after discovering abuses within the Nation of Islam, but found clarity in his pilgrimage to Mecca, where he prayed alongside blue eyed blondes and black skinned Africans. Upon his return, he offered the following statement: I'm for the truth, no matter who tells it. I'm for justice, no matter who it's for or against. I'm a human being first and foremost, and as such, I stand for what benefits humanity as a whole. Martin Luther King likewise sought to combine the disparate values compromising his big tent love for the Southern Baptist congregants and the Nietzschean will to power from secular allies in his most famous sermon 1967. He forged a synthesis. Power without love is reckless and abusive. Love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love. Implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power, correcting everything that stands against love. God, I find that to be incredibly stupid. Sorry, I know that some people can be like, oh, this is this great Baptist sermon or whatever. And I'm like,
Not so much, I
I,
think.
I, I think that Nietzschean philosophy is actually probably closer to right than this philosophy. You can look at our video on Nietzschean philosophy is actually just broadly correct on in many areas. And I think that there's this drive whenever someone is popular to be like, well, not like them, because that makes you look cool, right? To be sort of edgy and to have alternate perspectives. But Nietzsche's mostly right. This person, no, I think equating love as a guide to goodness leads to incredible immorality. Because first, progressives just define all their actions as driven by love. That's how they justify them. They say, well, I protect this community because, don't you love your fellow human? I, distribute money to everyone because don't you love your fellow man? Obviously I don't personally, I take other people's money and distribute it, but you know what I mean. It's it allows you to justify anything because you can just say, I'm doing it for love. But
Well, this
even
is similar to the toxicity of contextualizing yourself as a good person, because therefore, if you're a good person, then nothing you're doing is bad, because a good person wouldn't do a bad thing. And I think that's a really common problem with narcissists. Of course, this is the right thing to do because I'm doing it and I'm right and good
yes, I do good things because, of course,
because I'm a
they're
good
good.
person and good people do good things. Therefore, it's ironclad logic, Malcolm.
But I also think that even if you do this correctly, like you actually just do whatever creates this love emotion in you, you didn't evolve the emotion of love to define like moral truth. The oldest or one of the oldest stories that humanity has. There's older stories in the Bible and Gilgamesh. One of the oldest that we have is the story of Troy. And the point of the story of Troy is that love can lead a man to do truly evil things.
Oh, I don't know, or the pursuit of hot women.
Well, I mean, I don't think that in the story it's framed as he's only doing it because she's hot, and I don't think that they really differentiated hotness and love back then. But I think that somebody can be like, no, that was just because he found her hot, and I'm like, well, could he have done it for love? And they're like, well, yeah, he could have done it for love, and then it's like, okay, well, then it still stands. The lesson still stands. Love can cause people to do evil things. It's one of the earliest stories that mankind needed to write down and teach other people, and yet people have just forgotten this because it makes them sound like they're the good guy.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
it is really annoying. Even like people like Lex Friedman do this, where they're like, "Well, what about love?" Like they just seem to think that bringing up love or acting like we have to talk about love or that love justifies things makes them look morally good or sophisticated.
yeah, and I unfortunately now I need to bring this up whenever Lex Friedman comes up because I do feel that he is intentionally and
I know.
misleading about this. Lex Friedman is not a professor at MIT. He has taught classes, night classes, off season at MIT, which I have done at Stanford and Harvard. And
Carnegie
I
Mellon.
really only did it fully at Stanford and Harvard. Simone did it at Harvard, actually.
You did it
And
at Carnegie Mellon.
Carnegie
Well, he
Mellon,
did
we only did like a
one.
guest
Just
lecture
one.
thing, but
Yeah.
yeah. But I could claim by Lex Friedman standards that I am a professor at Stanford or Harvard. And so you're like, oh, well, if he hasn't actually done anything with Stanford, where was he educated? And the answer is all of his degrees are from Drexel. So I got to call him Drexel Freeman going forward. But no, it gets me. If you're going to brand yourself as this like big intellectual, I don't mind because like there's other intellectuals. I don't effing know where they went to college, but I still find their work interesting. Like, for example, I've never thought about where Short Fat Otaku went to college or his affiliations with any sort of intellectual institution. And yet, for a long time, I really liked his work. Recently, you can watch our video on the why it matters to take a side, like why fence sitting isn't good. We think he's gone too far into the fence sitting place, that it has corrupted some of his logic on issues in an effort to be a fence sitter. Because some people define fence sitting as like morally good.
What makes a man turn neutral? Lust for gold? Power? Or were you just born with a heart full of neutrality?
Right, but the point I'm making is, like, I don't care where a lot of people, I like Catgirl Kulak, I love, but yeah, Catgirl Kulak does really good intellectual stuff, and I've never thought to ask, what is this person's affiliation? But Lex
Right?
Friedman leads with this MIT connection.
Well, and also, like, there are people out there, major, typically conservative intellectuals, who actually have really impressive credentials, but don't share their real name or their face or their credentials, and actually
Yeah.
go out of their way. Like,
Bronze
a good
Age
example is
pervert went to
Bronze Age.
Yale.
Yeah. Yeah, but he would never say that, and he intentionally grammatically screws up his writing. So, yeah, I see your point.
No, I mean, I think that you see this repeatedly is that gets me, right? Like and I am willing to say this because we've met Lex Freeman, and he never responded to my text about doing a show sometime. And I've been on Piers Morgan. Okay, you can have me on, Lex. You're not too good for me. Sorry, I have a lot of
repeated
pride
snubs justify.
about influencers who I hang out with and then don't work with me. I'm like, come on, man. But hey, I know we were already pretty famous back then. So that was,
Well, back to the concept of love, though. It
back to
is
the concept of love.
dangerous. It is dangerous.
Yeah, and
Well, but I think hiding behind anything, be it love or be it I'm on the winning side, I'm on the good side, I'm with the church, I'm with this political party, I'm with this university, like falling back on any of those. And this is one reason why we also don't really like referencing philosophers, and that's maybe the thing I like least about the Saporia article. And I know you're saying, like, oh well, this Nietzschean philosophy is solid. Maybe it is, but leaning back on these people instead of articulating concepts using plain English is another way of hiding behind something without making your point and owning it personally.
yeah, well, I mean, even the writers of this article, I'm struggling to tell from the context if they support this love sentiment, because the next thing they say is such wisdom offers an antidote to the communal narcissism of today's left, authentic compassion rooted in universal truth. Western civilization must return to these values: duty, honor, rationality, and openness to debate. Now, those are some values I can get behind. I need to do the Starship Troopers scene here.
Courage, duty, honor.
Honor. But yeah, what is it? It's a good day to die when you know the reason why.
It's a good day to die when you know the reasons why. Citizens, we fight for what is right. A noble sacrifice. When duty calls, you pay the price. For the Federation, I will give my life.
Courage, duty, honor. This is the world that we want to build.
Yeah.
But I actually like this alternate one: duty, honor, rationality, and openness to debate.
Sounds good. Yeah, absolutely.
It was S. Scott Fitzgerald who noted that the mark of first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in the mind at the same time without losing the ability to function. For instance, accepting that there are differences between individuals and groups. A wise culture resists what Salesian called the persistent utopia lie, distinguishing authentic from performative compassion. We must teach our children that genuine goodwill comes from personal decency, not external validation. Only then will we be able to reconstitute the principles that have guided humanity for centuries. And that's the article. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting to go into this new concept. I do think that the way that you fight this is by having kids who are proud to be other and different and do their own thing, which in part means that if you are, and I think that this is one of the big trap that many of the traditional Christians do, is they teach their kids to obey because they were taught to obey. And being taught to obey does a great job when your cultural group is the dominant cultural group. Because when the kid is no longer with the parent, who do they obey? They obey the person with the most power, which is the culture with the most power.
Yeah.
Right. But if
Well,
you,
that's a big problem with especially American parenting, is that rather than let kids suss out problems on their own and resolve their own conflicts and really just fight it out, you encourage them to appeal to authority, and that produces this kind of culture.
exactly. And again, as I was saying, I see this so much in conservative circles where they're like, "Oh, my kid is so obedient. Look at them," and I'm like, "You should train them to be maximally disobedient."
Yeah,
Uh,
you should not like that. That's a bad, it's a
Moral
bad sign.
disobedient is what you should, or it's at least what we optimize for. And again, culturally, this may change if you're from a different cultural tradition, because cultures, I believe, sort of co-evolve with us, and so you may find that for
No,
you,
I really don't think obedience is a good thing at all. What we encourage is teaching our kids that certain actions have consequences and so that they can make rational decisions. Obedience means following a rule, regardless of whether the rule is logical or beneficial or good. And that's not,
well, some cultures have operated off of that sentiment for a long time. I
yes,
think, for example, many Catholic cultural groups have operated for a long time on as you're
an
talking, sort of
obedience model.
obedience model, right?
Mm.
And I think that it's uniquely challenging within a modern context, but I think that they're likely going to be better off finding a way to just make sure that their kids know who they need to be obedient to, which is God and the church, rather than trying to build something. Because like you look at our kids, right? They're not like their disobedience and intentional sort of trolley predilection is very obviously in a large part genetic. We're just
Yeah.
providing framing for it. If you don't have that fire already lit, you're going to be easier trying to protect what you do have in your kids, which is, when you talk about the video, if you parent like Jordan Peterson, your kids are going to be simps. But I admit that like his parenting model may work for people who have co-evolved with obedient, optimized cultural frameworks. Sitting the kid down and attempting to break their will may work for kids who like biologically have very weak wills and just really want something to follow. Whereas our kids, oh my God, they even like the youngest ones, they will look at us and be like, I'll be like, "Hey, Titan, you might knock that bowl off the table right now." And then she'll like start pushing the bowl, and I'm like, "Titan, if you do that, I'm going to come over there and bop you." And then she'll like get a big smile and knock the bowl off the table. And then I have to go over and bop her. And then she'll like whine for like 30 seconds and then go back to whatever she was doing. But I think a lot of people, maybe this is why people don't understand why we have to do pops within our family structure, is it's just the kids don't care, otherwise. Usually if there's a threat of bops, the kids won't do it. But very frequently there's this with the kids, and it's just like the cat. This like, even my little infant, I can be like, "Hey, don't do this." And it's clear that she understands no now, because when I say no,
She gets so excited.
she'll
She gets so
immediately
excited.
try to do it and start laughing. And I'm like, "Oh my God, you're an infant. So obviously I'm not going to punish you." But I didn't teach you to think it was funny to immediately try to do the thing that you were told not to do. And I fear that is just the genetic destiny of my family, of to want to break the rules. My favorite incident of this was my little girl. We were eating outside, and I had a bowl of macaroni in front of me on the sort of patio where there's an overhang. And so she comes over and knocks it off the overhang, and it falls over. And I'm like, "Ugh, that's a bummer, but we've got more macaroni." But then she runs down to where the macaroni fell in the bowl, and she starts putting the macaroni back in the bowl. And I'm like, "Well, obviously I'm not going to eat it now, but that's so sweet and cute that she's going to come and bring it back to me." And then she gets the macaroni back in the bowl, and she walks it back to me, and then she holds it up like she's going to give it to me. And she was 3 at the time. No, she's younger, probably 2.5 at the time that she did this. Like, she's going to give it to me. And then slow motion, moves the bowl so it's over the edge and slowly spills it out exactly where it had fallen before giving it to me, and just starts laughing. And obviously at that age, there's no way we could have taught her this behavior at that young of an age. But and this is why, and people can be like, well, why do you even punish them if like this is genetic or whatever? And it's like, look, breaking the rules isn't any fun if the rules aren't even enforced. Like,
Exactly.
people with these inclinations like frameworks to break, because what they're trying to do is figure out where the boundaries of the rule system are. That's what this behavior is. It's saying, okay, I can't get away with this, but can I get away with this? Okay, maybe if I try it and I look cuter while I do it. They are trying to find the boundaries of what they can get away with, and you need to, like a Roomba operating in a room with no walls, it just won't learn anything if it doesn't hit the wall occasionally.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wonder, yeah, there must be some people. I mean, I could have played with other kids where I didn't see this behavior
Yeah.
at all.
No, our kids are the first kids I've ever met who can't meet a rule that isn't meant for them to break, that isn't like an opportunity for fun through breaking.
Yeah, rules are just an opportunity for fun. Come on.
Yeah, it's just an invitation for a fun tussle. So yeah, that's interesting. I mean, how would you counter this? Because this kind of communal narcissism, as it's described, hurts communities, doesn't it? Or do you think there's some kind of technical benefit to this? I mean, you were saying it's what makes.
I
What did
think
you
you're
say?
thinking
Like,
about it wrong. I think that it's probably mostly genetic,
okay.
who is susceptible to this. And I think that these individuals should just be thought of as like, because it's created specifically by being both narcissistic and non-agentic, and being non-agentic basically in my mind makes you an NPC. And so you
Mhm.
should think of these people as like random NPCs that are spammed into the environment and are just always going to follow whatever the dominant cultural group is in this really predictable way. And you just need to think about them as people to navigate around, not like actual players in society.
I know, but in terms of like, okay, if we were, there are all these conversations about how do we get the left to win back young men? How do we get the left to win elections again? How do we root out the gerontocracy running it? Should there also be a conversation, if the left wants to win more, about rooting this out? Or does this army of Karens help the left in some way?
They do help the left. I think they've caused a lot of their problems, but they also help them maintain sort of their internal, not cohesion, but conformity. Now, this
Mm.
internal conformity is what has turned a lot of people away from them, but it's also what turned people away from the right as well. Any group that ends up courting these individuals, this is actually a good point, ultimately ends up failing, because these individuals make the agentic people in society angry. Like
Mm.
nothing is more agentic than just shut up and follow the rules. Stop trying to think for yourself. And that's what the Christian Karens used to do in the 80s and the 70s, right? And I think that drove a lot of the agentic people. That's why the tech bros of that time period were all progressives. And today, the competent tech bros are moving more and more to the right because they're being pushed out by this group. And so the question is, maybe just if you're a culture, build that culture in a way where it never accepts this level of sycophancy. And this is why we internally build things like Lemon Week, which we do for our kids, where every year is a holiday. You have to find something that offends you and spend a week learning to steel man it, because we see offense as a sign that something threatens your wider ideology by being potentially credibly true.
Yeah. Does this exist on? I think it does still exist on the right. I think it exists in more isolated. It
It does.
always
It
will
exists
exist in
in
isolated
isolated
church
communities
groups,
on the
religious
right where
groups,
what?
in isolated church and religious groups. But I think it also exists in some isolated, especially old guard Republican groups.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely it does.
Hmm.
I mean, when an individual on the right goes out and thinks they're going to look good by signaling something that shows, very little actual thought has been put into it, which we often see, like, oh, I'm the most right wing because I say we should ban gay people, and I'm like, well, how does this help anyone, right? Like,
Yeah.
if if you're if you think that being gay is okay enough that you're going to get married to another guy, you obviously don't hold the beliefs that you hold. So you're not like helping them get into heaven or something.
Hmm.
So, and you can watch our video. You could say like, well, maybe it leads to like broader societal degradation. Our video, Do Gays Destroy Civilization, where we went over this in detail, looking at historic examples, and it doesn't seem to.
Yeah.
It appears that in many cases, it was actually the leading into societal collapse that you had stricter sexual norms. A good example of this is the Romans, where they were looser before their golden age than at the height of their golden age or during their decline. So, I think a lot of people just have this like vague memory of like, well, the Greeks and the Romans at some point in their history allowed for gay people, therefore before the decline. It's like, well, no, you should look at, because they also had an ascent, right? And so I think that there's just like no logical reason to really be going out and pushing for this.
Yeah.
And yet people push for it. And it wouldn't even win. It wouldn't even win if only conservatives were voting. If you look at like modern conservative beliefs in the United States, it's just like an aesthetic belief that people, I think, push as part of dominance hierarchy fights, or to affirm, because they think that like being conservative is like tough and cool in some way, to affirm that about themselves.
Yeah. Okay, and then
And I think calling these people out, we should have like a word for this, like calling these people out as like lame, what is this? I think it's sort of like stop masturbating in public is what you should say, like, because that's what they're doing. They're just trying to masturbate sort of this position in a pecking order instead of creating a real argument that would do anything to help the wider party.
Can people recognize this in themselves? Like, how would someone even realize it? Or is this, I mean, I guess, do narcissists even know they're narcissists?
I mean, I think, can you see it in yourself? This is a good question. I mean, I think the question is, do you, like, if somebody said, hey, spend a week seriously engaging with every idea that you find offensive as if it was serious and probably true, this is the best way to find this out about yourself. And I think the number of things that you find too offensive to engage with is a sign of whether or not you are a person like this. If the term like that is too offensive to seriously engage with, it actually applies
if this
to
ever is uttered by you.
What?
If you ever feel that way, you know you're in trouble.
Yeah, because offense means that you should engage with it more intellectually, not less.
Absolutely.
It means it's threatening to you. So I think that this world belief is defined by too much fear of engaging with things that are offensive to you. That would be the easiest way. But I don't think that these people can be broken out of this or anything. I think even on the left, the people know the people who have this and they find them tiresome, but they're like, but they're part of the alliance, so let's try to make this wider thing work.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Anyway, I love you, Simone. What are we doing for dinner tonight? You know what I would like for dinner tonight?
What would you like?
Just some pizza.
Not pot stickers.
Oh, you've got pot stickers?
Yeah, I've got pot stickers.
I haven't done pot stickers in a while,
It's
actually.
been ages. And I'll do that thing where I do a mix of them. I'll make fresh gyoza dipping sauce. Seems like something you'd enjoy.
Do pot stickers, and we can also do a little bit of kimchi because I'm done with the...
Yes, let's do kimchi. Good gut bacteria for you. Yes, good. Okay, I'm excited for that. It'll be fun. And we're about to have our first ever monthly hangout for Patreon paid subscribers at our $10 level. I'm super excited. We might do them on weekends. We might keep doing them on weekdays. We're going to find out from the people who show up, and we'll ask people over the weekend. But huge thanks to those who support us on Patreon. And if you're interested in supporting the podcast and hanging out with us occasionally, and soon we're going to start releasing exclusive episodes on the platform, check it out.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this. Get to know what people think we should be doing more of, especially the people who like this the best.
Yeah, because we don't want to get stuck in like a vortex of the episodes that perform the best on our channel seem to be, oh my God, women are the worst. Oh my God, progressives are the worst. Oh my God, Jews are the something. Just anything that draws out.
Anything that looks like we might be saying something anti-Semitic or racist,
yes,
immediate pop off.
Yeah.
Or anti-woman or anti-gay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, the rest, like we try to throw in some, like history, prenatalism, and it just doesn't perform nearly as well. But we don't want to end up in just a silo like that, because then that's going to be boring, even if you do like that stuff. So
Yeah, and people can be like, "Oh, well, this is a sign of your audience." I'm sorry, I'm friends with some progressive influencers, and they're like, "Yeah, it's the exact same for me." Uh,
really,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
that's dark.
yeah. I
Well,
don't know if
stay
I can say
lovey.
who it is who said this, but yeah, it says it's a influencer who our audience almost certainly knows, and they've said, yeah, it
Classic.
love you to
Yeah.
death, Simone. You are the most perfect wife any man could ever have.
No, really, just you, because there's a lot of things that other
Oh
guys
yeah,
could put
not
up
me.
with.
Sorry, just me. For me, you're a better match than anyone.
Yeah, yeah,
This
I'd
one.
be a nightmare to a lot of people, but thank God you love me. God, I love you.
Um,
All right, love you. Bye.
and I'll join the thing. Where do I go for it?
We need to adjust it a little. I don't know, like.
Well, the audience can see my two Father's Day gifts now. I got the one helmet over there, and then I've got my Roman helmet too, right over
I need to
there.
get a stand for that, don't I? I do.
I think so.
Note to self.
All of my amazing exploits of the one civilization video obviously inspired this. It was only ever Rome. If you haven't seen that video and you like our videos, that is probably one of my most controversial takes and one of the most long research takes to do. That required like a month of research to put together and is incredibly offensive. Anything new today that you learned, Simone?
Gosh, I did learn. I guess okay. I was watching. I was trying to understand the reasoning behind Zorhan Mamdani's interest in providing government-run grocery stores in New York City, and it's bizarre to me that he hasn't really addressed the shortcomings of all the past experiments of government-run grocery stores. Because you have to keep in mind, this is like a 1% margin kind of industry, meaning that this is one of those industries where the corporate players in the space are deeply incentivized to be efficient and to provide the best possible like product and efficiency that there is, and government bureaucrats are not
What
incentivized
you
to do
learned
that.
is that what he just hasn't thought about it
I guess
apparently.
he hasn't. Yeah, I was trying to find like maybe there was something he'd thought of or would contribute to this idea that had not been
Oh, no,
tried
there
before.
is. Okay, so you don't know this part of the story. He said that what they would use to pay for the government grocery stores was $31 million that he thought was going to corporate grocery stores as government subsidies.
Huh?
But he misread in it
Oh.
where he got that information from, and they're not actually getting government subsidies.
Oh.
So he doesn't actually have the money that he needs to do his little project, but whatever.
Even if you provided government run grocery stores, though, which would maybe artificially depress the prices, that would just put normal grocery stores at greater risk, like eat at their margins and then cause grocery stores to shut down at a higher rate and then create more food deserts. It's a terrible idea. Oh
No,
well.
it is hilarious, but I'm for him. I want to speed run New York. I think when people understand that metropolitan areas can actually economically collapse, because I think right now there's this perception
Hmm.
that no matter what they do, things are going to be fine and that
Yeah.
New York will always come back. And
Yeah.
I don't think that like that's been one of my most persistent and I think controversial projections
Yeah.
is that Manhattan is going to economically collapse.
Well, it was. I mean, it used to be. I don't know. I as a teen somehow because I watched mostly movies that were made around the height of crime in New York. Like I can't remember the name of it, but there was this amazing like punk gang subway New York movie. I have
Oh,
to
yeah,
look
but
up.
you're talking about, like, when New York was in the slummy state of, like, the 1980s. When I say that New York is going to collapse, I mean something far more
The
drastic,
Warriors, 1979. It was good. The style was
um,
great.
far more drastic than that. which I could totally see happening. I was working on for our fab.ai, which is now live on the website. If you want to
Yay.
play it there, it's still at a very alpha stage right now. So I don't know, maybe wait another week or something, but putting together a giant list of all of the competitors. So I've tried every single paid chat app, and I'm putting together a review of all of them for the site because they're, good for SEO, but also it's something I want to exist. And I don't think that the audience of this show wants to hear me go through and rank every single paid AI chat app because I think they're so fun that I'm trying to build a better one now because I'm like, well, all the existing ones kind of suck and in various ways where they could be improved. So that's really exciting. One really confusing thing about this, and it almost feels like a conspiracy to me, is that the most popular ones, like, Replica, Character AI, are by far the worst. Even when you're talking about the ones that are for like narrative building, like AI Dungeon, which seems to get a lot of attention and has an active community, it's just not very good when contrasted with other ones like Try Spellbound.
Yeah, I tried character AI at your behest and was shocked.
She didn't believe me. She said you're using it wrong or something. It can't
Yeah,
actually be that stupid.
I was
I'm like,
sure he was
no, it
using
is. It is like actually confusingly bad.
worse than that. Yeah,
Um,
worse.
and then you
I
try
can't
it
do
and
it.
you're like, oh my God, this is confusingly bad. By the way, if you're wondering what I think are the best ones right now, and I still think that both of these are better than what we're putting together, but we'll hopefully be beating them soon. It would be GPT Flow, the paid model, the highest tier paid model, or Try Spellbound, which Try Spellbound is interesting because it doesn't appear to have like a giant community or anything like that.
Hmm.
And it looks like it's made by one person, and yet it's incredibly good. So I'm a bit confused by that. Although they're really good model broke, and now they're on like an average model. So we'll see. It's still better than the other ones, but anyway, I'll get started.
Dr. Torsten, Dr. Octavian, how are you curing Titan?
Oh, we're just putting him in a big napkin.
In a big napkin? You made a big bandage?
No, let's buckle this up. Yeah. Just keep it still. And then he'll get up through the medical connection. And then I hooked it up through the medical connection. Now we can see his heart. And if it's beating or not, then we gotta... Wait, let's have that explain. Wait, no. Let's see if... No, keep your foot down. Let's keep your foot down. Let's check if his brain is working, okay? Yeah. You should sleep by now, okay? In the hospital. And I'll just go on you because I want to check if all of the body's clear and put it when I'm here too because we want to take out his brain. Okay?
Or are you going to give her a brain scan?
Yeah. I'll look for other persons that need help.
Oh, okay. You're the ambulance driver now?
Yeah, I'm the ambulance.
And Torsten, are you the doctor?
Yes.
Torsten, are you the doctor like Andre?
Yeah, what? His brain is okay, looks like.
Well, thank goodness.
Yeah. Let me see his heart. And don't forget. Heart increase. His heart is not beating.
Well, what are you going to do?
We gotta retreat. Okay, his heart's beating. I found the This is the battery for her.
Oh, yeah, you're going to...
We need to take out his heart and then put in this new heart.
You're going to do a heart transplant?
Yeah. Wait, no, not yet.
That's quite a heart transplant.
Wait, I'll take out the heart.
Oh, she's cured. Is she better?
No, wait, you forgot something. I need to take out your heart. And I'll put in a new heart.
Aw, Titan, do you feel better?
Yes.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.